welcome to the paranormal and metaphysical world of Twilight tonight. Host Dee Moonflyer grew up with very open-minded parents who had many experiences with UFOs and the paranormal. Because of her mom's insistence on exposing her to spiritual classes, meditation, and teachings of Edgar Cayce, Dee had a fascination and deep interest in the paranormal. Her own paranormal experiences have led her to seek out and interview other fascinating, knowledgeable people for better understanding of this phenomenon. Now, your host of Twilight Tonight, Dee Moonflyer.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday 13th tonight. Of course, we have an amazing guest. I'd like to welcome Karen Dahlman on Twilight Tonight. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, Dee. I'm doing great. Happy Friday 13th to you and everybody out there watching.
I know. We've had some Friday 13th issues, but I think it's because Mercury is in retrograde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some magical things were happening. Technical, magical things were happening in the background, you guys.
Yes, but we're here, and I finally get to talk to Karen again. I've had her on my own podcast, Twilight Tonic, but now she's on Twilight Tonight, and what fun. Karen, what have you been up to? I know you're channeling now.
Yeah.
2 new books. Well, I don't even know where to start. Where would you like to start?
I don't even know either. Well, I can tell you, last year was a very busy year. I think since I was on your show last, a lot of traveling, going to talks, conventions, speaking, teaching, and writing, and a lot of personal fun time as well, outside of all the paranormal. Been on some investigations. My collection of Ouija has grown a little bit more. I'm up to like 85 boards now. Just a lot of things going on. So yeah, I've been working on 2 books. They've actually been working on these books for quite some time. And that one's supposed to be coming out in the spring. We'll talk about that one a little bit more. And then another one coming out end of summer. But I do channel. I channel on and off the board. And I think I told you before, Dee, I work on a psychic hotline, and I do that periodically. Just really gives me a chance to keep my skills going with channeling. I mostly channel when I do my readings.
You know, I find it really interesting, Karen, the way you do read and channel is with the spirit board. And a lot of people have asked me, because when I say I interviewed you, you know, they always get the heebie-jeebies. Oh, I stay away from those boards. Could you talk a little bit about the board and why you're comfortable with it and using it as your channel?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting. People, they hear about the word channeling. They're okay if you're channeling with your oracle cards, or you're channeling with your pendulum, or you're channeling with a recorder that does the EVPs that picks them up, or channeling with voice channeling, or even art, spirit art. But once you bring in the Ouija board to the picture, everything goes cuckoo for some reason with people, that they really define it there, that's not okay for some reason. Now, channeling, I channel off the board too. And I do my psychic readings. I'm not even using the board. I'm bringing the messages in directly that I'm receiving. But I started channeling with the Ouija board in 1973. This is my 50th year. I'm hitting that mark right now of using this tool. So you guys, the board, you can see them behind me. I was telling Todd earlier, I have 6 feet going this way of 3-tier shelves, and 11 feet going this way of 3-tier shelves. And behind me and around me, above me, which you guys can see, is about 34 boards on these shelves. I can switch them out, move them around. And then I have boards all around me in I call it the room of woo, my room of woo. Which is my office too. But you guys, a board, if you look at them, they're nothing more than what children might have used years ago is called alphabet boards, where they were learning the alphabet. You'll find boards like this, and people think they're Ouija boards. They weren't. They were used in kindergartens and elementary schools to learn the alphabet. And you might have pictures on them too. I can channel on a children's board to learn the alphabet. I mean, you can channel on a lot of different media. For example, here's something I have for you to show you. This is actually a, I got it upside down. There it is.
Oh, wow.
Okay. This is actually a pendulum board. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would take your pendulum, and I have a few pendulums sitting here because I love different divination tools, you guys. And you can do this like this, and it'll go to the numbers and letters. And right now I'm just moving it around, you guys. But this was a pendulum board, and I actually use this with the planchette, and I can use it as a Ouija board. But people, for some reason, aren't freaked of this board when they hear it's a pendulum board. But as soon as you do this, they get freaked out. And I think it's because there's a lot of reasons why. And I think the main reason that goes without saying is a lot of religions or religiosity has told people that you shouldn't be speaking to the deceased. But if you get to know me and my work, I'm not just talking to the dead. They're never dead. I'm talking to spirits, higher self, animals that are alive, that are maybe transitioned. I'm talking to different dimensions, interdimensional beings. You can use this as your cosmic telephone. That's what I do with it. And so it's so much more to me than just a board with numbers and letters and just doing mediumship, if you will. Yeah, people aren't even freaked if you do mediumship, but when you bring a board out, they are. So it never makes sense to me, but I have that conversation with a lot of people for these reasons because of the fear factor.
Sure. When did you discover the board? I mean, did you just play with it one day and it agreed with you, or what is the background on that?
Yeah, it's fascinating because I really wasn't into Ouija boards until the age of 8. I kind of heard about them, but really didn't know what it was. I felt no affection, no affiliation towards them until my friends down the street, one was my age 8 and the other one was 10, two sisters, said, come down to our house, let's play some games. So I thought we're going to play like typical, Candyland or Operation or Barrel of Monkeys, the stuff we used to, Tiddlywinks, stuff we used to play in the 70s. Okay. I had no idea until they pulled this from underneath their bed, this box, and they pulled out the Ouija board, and it looked like this Ouija board right here. That's actually circa 1972, and I was doing it in 73. So they pulled this out, and we start using. I go, "This is stupid. I mean, you're pushing it." And I said, "No, we aren't." And we would ask questions, and I said, "Who's answering?" They said, "Well, different spirits." That's what they called it. And then they said, "Let us show you somebody else we talked to." And I said, "Well, who is this you talked to?" And they said, "Well, our dead sister." And I said, "Didn't even know you had a dead sister." Well, Dee Dee,
Wow.
apparently the older girl in the room had a twin that died shortly after birth. And they said, she's growing up on the other side. I go, "How do you talk to this?" She's like, "Goo goo gaga." She said, she talks to us like she's our age. And so I was so mesmerized and excited about the idea that not only is there, here we're learning that the afterlife exists. And I believed in that anyway, because of my religion, Catholicism upbringing. I believed in the afterlife, but I was like, now I'm experiencing it. And it wasn't that the Ouija board worked. It was the fact that here was a child spirit that had its own life in the other dimension and was growing up. So I was super stoked about that. Ran home, told my parents, and I said, "Oh my God, it's true. The afterlife exists. And not only is the afterlife real, but they have lives in the afterlife. They live, they do things." And my parents said, "Oh, sure. How do you know this?" And I go, "Because of the Ouija board." And they go, "Oh, yeah, right." Wink, wink. I said, "Well, if you're not going to believe me, I know Santa Claus will." And sure enough, December 1973, he gave me this board right here. My very first Ouija board is right there.
That's cool.
That is how it came to my life. And little did my parents and Santa Claus know that this would take me on an odyssey through these 50 years of still using this tool and really pushing the boundaries of consciousness with it.
That's a really cool story.
It's
so
a fun
funny.
story.
The Ouija board that you pointed out, my mom had the same Ouija board.
What year was that? Do you remember exactly what year it was?
Oh gosh, it was the 80s.
Okay, so this one right here, it lasted through like the 90s, this same kind of style. The planchette changed. My planchette came with the little brass tab in it, which I still have to this day. I tape it down so it doesn't fall out, which probably wasn't a good idea for kids or pets. Now it's a plastic. Your mother's must have been a plastic pointer that was attached to it, so it didn't detach. Okay, so that's when they started making it safer. I have the one that's probably not so safe.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How, as time went on, how did you discover that you clearly could speak to the other side, your spirit guides? When did that start happening? Did that start happening around puberty, out of curiosity, when you were a teenager, and got stronger and stronger?
Gotta say, this is where it started. When I came into this world already seeing things that other people couldn't see. because they were telling me you're playing make-believe. There's nobody here you're talking to you. You're
Right.
making this up. And I was told, quit doing that if you're gonna go to school and be a big kid. You know, I mean, made fun of. So I already had the abilities to see things, feel things, hear things. People that I knew didn't. And I learned at a very young age, by the age between 2 and 5, I learned that other people couldn't see these things. So I learned to shut it down and not talk about it, although I still have these experiences. But I will tell you this, I tried to put it away when I went to school. But then the Ouija board came in. 3rd grade, the Ouija board came into the picture, and I was like, oh, this is like my lifeline back to those dimensions that I always knew existed as a child. So it was like 3 years I was trying not to do it because it was like, people aren't going to believe you. They're going to think you're weird, all that stuff.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
and when the Ouija board came around for me, when my girlfriends introduced me to it, I was like hooked. And I would always have sleepovers at my house where either we would do the Ouija board, or if their parents told them they couldn't use the Ouija board with Karen Dahlman, what we would do instead is light as a feather, stiff as a board, or tell ghost stories, right?
Yep. I wish you were
remember
my
that?
neighbor. I would have had a blast.
Oh yeah, we should have been neighbors, seriously, because it's like all of us like in the closet doing this stuff, and the girls were like, "Oh, this is so much fun," and they love light as a feather, stiff as a board. Do you want to tell the audience what that's about, or do you want me to?
Oh my gosh. No, we used to play it like this. We'd
Okay.
have like about 4 or 5 of us girlfriends get together. We put our fingers like this and put it underneath, and we'd say light as a feather, stiff as a board. Of course, we'd have to have candles lit, and it had to be, very spooky. And I swear it worked. I don't care what anyone tells me. I swear we could do it.
It worked. And the idea is this: you tell a story, like it's almost like putting somebody in a hypnotic induction. Because when I learned hypnosis later on, I go, that's what we were doing with these people. We were hypnotizing them in a way where their body would get really light as a feather, stiff as a board, and we would lift the person up, and they'd be just like they're dead. You lift them up, and they'd be in that state, and you can lift them way up like this with just 2 fingers. And they could be like 4 or 5 kids, like Dee Dee just said. And it was crazy. I don't know if kids still do this to this day, but I was doing that. I even did that in college a little bit, which we still experimented with it because it's fascinating because it starts allowing you to understand the power of your mind and the power of like subliminal messages you're giving somebody when they're in a hypnotic state to lift somebody up. So to me, that was like always kind of spooky, eerie, because you always would tell a story that was kind of like scary, and the candles. So it was like a seance. It was like a seance.
Mm-hmm. I find it really interesting. Now, I don't know about your mom and the background. I grew up with Catholicism, but my mom was very open-minded with it. And she loved mediumship, automatic writing, Edgar Casey, all of that. And I'm wondering, because of that openness, did your mom have the same kind of openness, your parents, about the mediumship, the Ouija board? They were okay with it?
Well, so it was a mixed bag. I would say overall, they allowed me to do these things. Obviously, Santa Claus gave me a board when I was 8. But they also didn't necessarily believe it. And my mom was really open. We just didn't talk about it. But she was also like, don't do that because kids at school are going to think you're silly. So I got this kind of both sides of the mouth kind of thing, but my mom, at the age of 12, she said to me, she pulled me aside and said, I have decided to leave the church. Because we were Catholic, okay? And we would go to everything. I went to Bible school, CCD, confirmation, all that stuff. And confirmation and baptism and everything, communion. Okay, so she said, I'm gonna leave it. And she said, but if you and your older brother want to still go, I will take you. And I was like, yay, I don't have to go to church. She goes, don't get too excited because I will still take you. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. But I said, why, Mom? And she said, because there's a lot of things that don't make sense anymore. She goes, when I was raised Catholic, she went to parochial school. She went to Catholic college, very steeped in it. And she said, I couldn't eat meat. Then all of a sudden I could eat fish, and I couldn't do birth control, but now I can. And all these rules, she realized they were man-made. She liked the whole circumstance, or I should say the structure to it, and the stories in the Bible and all that stuff, but just didn't appreciate that they kept changing the rules. And she goes, that's man-made. That is not God-made. And she said, so she explained that to me. And I said, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, Mom. And I'm on that same page. So what happened as I got older, late high school, college, we started doing a lot of our spiritual explorations together. So as a child, I was told to put this away. I couldn't ever put it away, didn't want to. And then we
Right.
came together and started going and exploring. Like we would go to Shirley MacLaine stuff when we would do automatic writing or go to sessions together or workshops and programs. And we did that for a long time. And we would share the same books. And she wanted to know what her guide said on the board. And she's been around me when I used the board. She's tried to use it. She's not very good at it. But it's really interesting how that progression shifted. And my parents they're both still alive. They're in their 80s, mid 80s. And
Mm-hmm.
they know this is real for me, and they know that it's real. I mean, and
Right.
they are okay with it. So I talk about it a lot, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do now when you do a reading, do you bring a spirit board with you? Do you always have one with you?
Not necessarily. There's times I've done some radio shows, and I just for security or blanket, my security blanket, I might have a board like this on my lap. And I've been on some shows where they'll say, "Can you get a message for me?" And I just put my hands on the planchette, it starts moving, and then I hear it, and then it comes. And I say, "This is what I'm
Mhm.
getting for you." When I do the readings, because I work on a phone, and I also do readings for people through my website, all kinds of, I do Zoom, and I do these audio recorded readings, but I only know somebody. They ask me a few questions, and I'll give them channeling. That is without the board. That's just me sitting, meditating, tapping into the energy, and doing it direct. And so the channeling now has shifted from just receiving messages through the boards to getting it verbally. I hear it auditorily. Sometimes it's not so much words. Sometimes it's more of a feeling. And then I get images. I'm very much into my imaginal realm. I can see things. I'm very clairvoyant in those sense that I will see images and give the messages through those images. So, and I tap into people's spirit guides or my spirit guides that I work with called the guides. I write about them in my books. And then other beings that might come through. Sometimes I do mediumship. Sometimes I do animals. I mean, it just depends what they ask. And it also depends who wants to come through. Just because you knock on the door doesn't mean somebody's going to always answer.
Right. Or the
Yeah.
person that they want them to answer.
Right. So, but I can tell you this, the guides come through. The guides I work with is a collective group of beings of source wisdom. They're an extension of that, as we are too, but they have never been in a physical body, and they understand that they are source, where we forgot that as humans. So they're the group that I work with all the time. They come through. I first met them in 90, it was in 92, and I read about it in this book, The Spirits of Ouija. And this book, The Spirit of Alchemy, really talks about, was my third book, really talks about how to do that, the work yourself, and to make these connections with source. It's ultimately what that's about. But I think it's so important, what I've learned and what I teach now when I do my workshops and programs is to make that connection with your higher self, your greater self first. And then it kind of opens it up. And you got that protection, you've got that inspiration, you've got that centeredness, and then you can start exploring other levels of consciousness of sentient beings.
That's amazing. I love it.
I love it too. And I have to say this, it's almost like selfish. I love it so much because when I channel, I feel so loved. It's like this channel, this vessel of energy comes over me, and I read from that space. And when I read from that space, my heart's open, and it just feels like unconditional love. And every time I do a reading, I get in that space. And even talking with you guys, Dee Dee and everybody out here tonight, I can feel that the channeling of the energy coming forward already.
It's really interesting. Does it feel like a warm blanket coming through you?
It does. It does. I remember feeling that. Yes. And I can even go stronger with it. It's like, it feels like a warm blanket, but then I feel this, it's like a funnel of light, and I'm filling it up, and it gets so large, and I get so energized and renewed and invigorated. And it's like, so there's nothing that holds me back. I don't get tired or worn out, even doing the Ouija board. I've opened up a way, but also been able to separate from it. So nothing wears me out. And some people say they get really tired doing this, and I don't. In fact, I get jazzed. My energy frequency goes up so much more that I usually can't go to sleep after I do some channeling session or something.
I love that. When we come back, we're going to have a word from our sponsors. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some more books that she is writing that's going to come out in the spring, and an event she's having in Sedona.
heard a girl scream down here.
Are you kidding me right now?
I'm listening.
Very well. Thank you so much. Hi, Karen. We're back. And I do have a question that someone wants to know.
Okay, great.
Do you have a favorite? I'm going to mispronounce this because I never could pronounce them. The Prachette.
Oh, planchette.
Prachette.
Gosh, I love all my planchettes, but I brought some to show you guys how diverse they can be. So probably my favorite is probably the original one because it has the brass tab in it and it's been with me since I got it in 73. And I don't have it here to show you, but I have some other things to show you. This is called a paddle planchette, and I do love this. This is what the original planchette looked like. It actually had 4 legs. Mine's missing a leg because a lot of times they fall apart over the years. But this is what the original board would have came with. This is what they look like. They're very high. You notice that? I find that when they're this high, they don't work as well. I prefer the low profile planchettes. You can also call these indicators. They're called indicators or planchette. Planchette is French for little table. So it actually means plank or table. And so they're called little planchettes. So that's where the word came from. It's French. And it actually came from, here we go. This is original of a writing instrument. It's called an automatic writer. You put a pencil in the aperture. This is a modern day one, but it's made after the old fashioned ones. Somebody crafts these and you would do this. And this is, they paired this with like an alphabet board I talked about earlier, you guys. And that became the Ouija, because you have the planchette, which is the automatic writer with the board. So that's kind of how that started. But here's some cool ones. So if you see this blue board in the back, what it is a picture of the moon. It's called the Luna board. So one of my friends, Lauren Morse, who's an artist, made this. And the weird thing happened, Dee Dee, there was like a season. And all of a sudden, she and her neighbor found all of these dead Luna moths. They wake up and they're scattered all over the ground one morning. And so she collects them, and so does her friend. They don't want to waste them. And so she decided to put them in resin. And now this is the planchette. It's called, see the Luna moth in there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
And no, you guys, nobody killed this to make it. She found it on the ground and said, I'm going to preserve it. It's like making it into art, put resin around it. And it is the planchette for the Luna board. Luna moth with the Luna board. This is super cool. Now, here's another one my good friend, colleague, Rick Schreck makes. He's the one that did the giant Ouija, the world's largest Ouija board, Ouijazilla. He's also the VP of the Talking Board Historical Society, which I'm one of the directors. He made this. It's a coffin planchette. This is actually this is actually made out of a embalming table wood, and so it says Gleason Board Company, which is on the embalming table. So it's a planchette, it's a coffin, and it works really well. Here's another board another planchette I really like. It's called the Salem Witch Board Museum. It's from my colleague, John Kozak, who owns this place in Salem. If you haven't been there, you guys check it out. This one glows in the dark. Now, here's a cool one. There's one that I made. Ta-da! It's like Tupperware, you guys. It's from a True Whip because I'm do vegan. And this is fun now. Watch. So I take a sack like this, Trader Joe's, spirit or satanic sacks. And then I open it up and I do this. Ta-da! And then this becomes my planchette. See that? So I show you guys the diversity of these and the ingenuity of just making your own, because all these can work. They work because we work. We're the ones doing the channeling. We have to hone ourselves to be able to channel. And then this just becomes the theatrics, the way we show or spell out the channeling that's coming through.
Oh man, I love that. The one made from the Mortuary board.
Yes.
That's something else.
Embalming table. Yeah, and this will work on any board. I don't have to use it. There's a board that it came with called the Shrek board, but
Yeah.
I can use this on any board. Now, here's something a friend just sent me. It's a little pocketbook. Now, I'll tell you what, this is a Ouija board on there, right? So you got the numbers and letters, spirit board. I can use my finger. So I know friends that just use their finger because they get the spirit to tell them what to go to. Or you can use like a little mini planchette.
Oh my gosh, that is adorbs.
Isn't that cute? So all these things work. I even have a mouse pad that I've used as a Ouija board. It all works.
That little one just made my night. That teeny little plush head just made my night.
Let me show you this. A friend of mine made me. Look at how cute this one is.
Oh my God. Oh.
So, I mean, I'm telling you, people are lovely. I have a lot of good friends that really enjoy the board, and they'll make me and send me their prototypes or boards. And then they give me like a little miniature planchettes like this. And all of these work, you guys. This is one I made out of resin. Little resin planchette.
That is adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just want to hold that and hug that. That is cute.
I have those I have a few of them sitting over here. Just like little tokens on my desk, but I use every single thing I've showed you. Although this is brand new. I haven't used this one yet, which I will. Everything that I have, all these boards which you can't see, and these little ones, I've used them all. They all work because I work.
Now, do you use your crystal ball?
I do. So this is interesting. Now, I didn't know I really could scry with a ball. I use my black mirror. I can scry with the mirror. And one day, this is about 6 or 7 years ago, I was at a friend's house, and her husband, we were doing a dinner party, and I came that night, and I said, I'll do readings for everybody. And I was using cards that night. And then he walks out with this crystal ball, which basically is this ball. I'll tell you that story. So he hands it to me and goes, "What do you see?" And I actually saw images, and then my mind just started working. And then I told him this whole story, and he goes, "Oh my God, that is the story of my mom's brother." And it was like an adultery story. It was like, it was ridiculous. I don't know nothing about his mother. His mother gave it to him. And so when I moved from California to here, he asked his wife, who's one of my really good friends, he said, "Please give this to Karen because she knows how to use it. I never learned to use it." So yeah, I do use my crystal ball sometimes.
Yeah, I was laughing because my mom got me one for my 16th birthday. Do you see it back there?
I see it back there. Do you use yours?
Once in a while I do. I love it because it was for my 16th birthday, and it's a small one.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
But
it's
yeah.
Cute. Yeah.
I know. I've had it all these years.
Yeah, that's quite a while. Yeah, mine's more new, relatively new for me, and I love it. And I usually keep it out, dust it off, but I keep it out on one of my shelves over here with some of my with the black mirror and a few other of items that I have for scrying. I think that I love channeling, and I love that there's so many different tools you can use, and just use yourself as the tool. And by the way, this right here, this little it's not a real stone, it's just like glass, but you could scry in this. And you can scry on your phone when it's black, you can scry on it. You can scry on your computer screen. So in the old days, many years ago, they would scry in the water, they would scry in lakes, they would scry before they had glass. You could scry in a lot clouds, you could scry in a lot of things. And so that's the whole idea of divination. And so you can make your own scrying tools, you guys. You don't have to go buy them. Like this, for example, is a mirror, and they just put black paper in there, and actually it was painted. This one's painted so it has a reflective glare to it and glass over it. And this was given to me by Rosemary Ellen Guiley, the late great Rosemary Ellen Guiley, because she was really into scrying.
Yeah, she was. Now you have 2 more books coming out this year, correct?
I do. Yes.
You want to tell us about them a little bit?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about them. So here's an interesting one. So we've been, when I say we, it's either myself and the guys or different spirit beings that I work with, or sentient beings that usually help me co-write my books. And so there's a big one coming out in August. I'm not going to give titles to these books because it's almost like bad luck. Although I have the titles and I have a lot of the books written. It's just like I don't like to get it out there until it's ready to be published. But I will tell you this, it's a real cool book that's coming out in August, and it's about basically tapping into different sentient beings or levels of consciousness. And so I'm going to be talking about how to do this and how to make it happen, but also give you stories and examples. I've had some incredible things happen when I start pushing the boundaries of consciousness. This is on and off the board. So it really gets into some heavy duty channeling. Now, I also have a book that's coming out that my cat wrote. My cat wrote this book when he was alive and also in spirit. He's been working on it for quite a few years. And it's finally complete. It was his book. It was his idea. It was his story. I actually put it into poetic, or I should say poetic stanzas. But it's his book. And he told me what to do and how to do it and what he wanted, the story. And then that was talking to him telepathically and also on the board. So it's on and off the board with him too. It's very much getting into different types of channeling, because we all can learn to work with the energies of our animals. And by the way, if you have a pet you just love, you feel them. You're getting that telepathic exchange or energy coming through that you're able to read. And so I've just learned to hone it for myself, where I actually get literal words. And so this book is a picture book. I have an illustrator that's working with me right now. The words, the story, that's all done. We're waiting for the illustration to come in, and then we're going to publish it. And we expect that one to be out this spring.
Are they going to be able to get it on your website and Amazon?
Yes, and they'll be able to get it in person from me when I'm traveling around. When I'm in Sedona, I really hope the book's done by then. I'm still working with the publishing house to get it done by then. It may not, but it'll be this spring. But you can get it on Amazon as well. So it'll be on Amazon, my website, or in person. And this book, my cat's name is Jack. He's in spirit now. Was horrifically abused when I got him. Just skittish, and it was really a sad situation. And when I brought him into my home, that's when he just blossomed and opened up and told me that he wanted to be an author. He wanted to write a book, and he wanted to be a published author because he saw what I was doing. And I said, sure.
Oh, that makes me excited.
I know. And I said, you have a story? He goes, I do. I have a story. And sure enough, it was beautiful. I was petting him one day and the story came into my mind. It was like downloaded. I could hear it, feel it. It wasn't me. It was from him. And then we started talking on the board. And by the way, he was alive when I was talking to him on the board. You could talk to sentient beings and consciousness that's alive, sure. Higher selves, etc. And that's when he told me a lot of the story. And then when he passed over to spirit, he finished up the story. And he's been very patient with me with writing it because he knew that I was very busy with travels last year. But we had the opportunity to finally finish it up. I've been working on it with him over the years.
Oh, that's awesome. I think sometimes people forget that our animals are a huge part of our life spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they teach us so much, and they're so there for us. I have 5 animals, and my bird is hiding. My Amazon is up there hiding.
I heard your bird earlier.
I know, she's hiding now, but she's always usually at my side.
She's hiding because she's afraid of the Ouija boards. She's like,
Are you afraid of them, Mags? No. She's used to me, so.
Our animals, I'm glad you brought that up. They are master teachers and our guides. They come here to teach us about unconditional love. They understand what that is, especially the animals that you get to interact with in your life. So you could have a wild animal that could also be your teacher. You just may not be able to interact as much. But a lot of us that have the animals that we have in our homes, we tend to learn so much from them. But the Native Americans and Native cultures always understood this about animals. And they knew this about their fellow standing tall ones like the trees or the rocks. Everything animal, there's a level of consciousness to everything, and once you learn to crack that code or tap into that level of consciousness, you can receive their messages and you can also communicate with them. And the native tribes across different cultures and different continents have always known and done this.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to respect our animals on this planet.
Yeah,
so important. Now, there is an event coming up in Sedona. When is that?
Yeah, so I have an event coming up mid-March. It's March 17th through March 19th. It's called the Sedona Ascension Retreat. And it is a beautiful event. I think this is the 8th year they've done it, or 9th year. It's somewhere in that level. It's wonderful because not only do they have speakers that come from all over the country, they have, and I'm one of the speakers, and also I'm going to be providing a workshop there, but they have people that come and do vortice tours, UFO sky watches. They have Coast to Coast team, George Norrie and Tom Danheiser as producer. They're putting on a big stage show Saturday night. I'll be a part of that show. And then there's all these workshops you can do throughout the event. And it's, of course, right up with the Red Rocks. It's, you guys, I live about an hour and a half from Sedona. So I go up there a lot. I go to Sedona a lot because I love the energy up there. I was just up there at the end of November was the last time I was there. And the energy is just incredible. You really can feel it. It's like portals or openings into other dimensions. And you have an opportunity there to really raise your own vibration. I've done so many different meditations up there, energetic work, and just walking and hiking the vortices, and you can get lost in a great way. I don't mean like lost, but I mean lost inside of this energy. But so this Sedona Ascension Retreat, you can go to Sedona Ascension Retreats, plural.com, or my website. I have it in upcoming events, and learn more about it there because I'm super excited to be a part of it. I've heard nothing but great things. I think it sounds
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And I like it because we're talking about ascension, and we're talking about ways to awaken with the universal energy. And so my big thing that I like to teach is really learning to tap into how to do it, your higher self. Like I mentioned earlier, I find that's the best thing to learn to communicate with first, make those connections. And then from there, it opens you up to other kinds of conversations to be had, if you will, or explorations to discover. And then in my workshop, I'm going to take what I'm talking about and teach you how to do it on the board, hands-on. It's like a 90-minute workshop. So if anybody comes,
Karen,
don't worry if you don't have a spirit board. I will have a lot of my spirit boards there for you to use, and also have cardboard there to make your own that you just take home with you when you're done, and you can use it later on.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That just sounds like that's just right up my alley.
I know. It is up your alley, and it is a
closer.
lot of fun. And I use a lot of humor, and I'll tell you why. What I've learned from the guides when I do this work of channeling, they say if you can bring the levity to it, you actually raise your vibration by bringing joy and happiness. And so we will use those tools to raise the vibration so we can make these contacts. And I teach you how to do that too.
And I think it's so interesting that you said that, because I think our spirit guides have great senses of humor.
Oh my God, yes.
I fired mine one time. I got upset. Fired.
What do you mean?
I said, you all are fired. And they had a hilarious sense of humor about that whole thing. That whole week, they would like do things, and it was just like the joke was on me. They knew that I was upset, and they didn't want to like overwhelm me because, for years I got away from all the spirituality stuff. And then when I retired from dance, it kind of was like hitting me over the head. It's like, you will listen. It's like, I don't want to listen.
You're fired.
You're fired. Get out of here. I'm busy.
That is hysterical. I've had some arguments. I'll just say, because sometimes I go, okay, you're not going to tell me? Really? You're not going to tell me? They're like, no, you need to figure that out yourself. And I'm like, come on. And then they go, what would be the fun of living your life if you had all the answers? And I'm like, okay, touche, you win.
Yeah. They just have that sense of humor.
Oh, they're funny.
With all of this cool stuff coming up, how do you find time for yourself, Karen?
Well, I love spirit communication, and so I constantly am out. So I make a lot of connections with the universe when I'm out walking or hiking. So I hike and I walk a lot. At least walk an hour every day. If not, when I hike, I go 2 or 3 or 4 hours, because I find that's when I can connect with nature, and also find myself getting more in tune with who I really am inside, which I think that's the key to everything. If you could really make this strong, the center within, then everything else seems to just dissipate away, and you feel like you could almost accomplish anything. So I find myself recharging outdoors in nature, I do like to spend a lot of time alone because I love my thoughts and my creativity. So I started painting again recently. I think I mentioned to you I paint, and it just opened up. I felt like there was a little block there with some of my writing, and it just opened me right back up again. So I'll play with these different types of expressions, and like you and I talked, I used to dance too. These different expressions, and that's how I find myself, and I give myself that space I need.
Yeah, I always find that super interesting because meditation, getting into yourself, like when I used to dance professionally, it was my meditation.
Yes.
So I was always meditating apparently. And then when I stopped dancing, I felt really lost.
Oh.
And I too started to do my artwork again.
Oh, I love it. It's I call it movement meditation. I mean, the old way of meditating, which is still a good way, which is doing, transcendental and sit in a lotus position. And I still do, I will do it all. Okay. But I find myself losing a sense of time and connecting with the divine when I get involved in some kind of expression, whether it was dance back in the day too, art, painting, drawing, and or channeling as I do, or going out hiking and connecting with nature and just listening. Being open and listening and receiving. There's various ways to meditate. And I think for me, and I think it sounds like you too, Dee, we have found our way through the movement.
Yeah, movement's so important because you and I have something very in common. We did the same art form.
I know.
Yeah. How many years did you do yours?
Gosh, I started at the age of 29. So we're talking about Middle Eastern dancing. We both had been doing Middle Eastern dance. I don't know if you shared that before. I don't think a lot of people, I do talk about it a little bit in this book because one of my mentors, I started studying with her. That was the late 90s with her. And we put together a whole program. I think I told you a little bit about before. And it actually got me accepted into graduate school to get a PhD, which I eventually didn't do because my life went a different way. But anyway, so I did it on and off a long time for about 10 years. I was very dedicated to it. And then it was more on and off for about 10, 15 years after that, where I was still teaching at, I think I told you, I taught at the Montage, which is a very high exclusive hotel in California. And I taught at the Hideaway, which is another exclusive resort in the desert. And I was taking and studying with different people. And it was a blast. But I'll tell you what, and I know Dee Dee's going to say the same thing too. We still have our costumes, right?
I saved all my crystal costumes when I danced in Turkey.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, I have like a lot of my crystal costumes, and my mentor was Artemis Murat. So she inspired me to travel to Turkey, and I loved it. And someone had a question: Can you meditate to music? I say yes.
Yes.
Music is beautiful. It's shapes and colors. And
there's that Hertz frequency too. So you look up the Hertz frequency to meditation. There's different frequencies, like the Schumann's frequency, and I've tried them all. Binaural beats, I've used those before. I was using that for a while. I was doing automatic writing with the binaural beats, and it really was cool. So yes, you guys, if people are telling you can only do it one way, head for the hills and run the different direction, because there's many ways to tap into the divine universal consciousness. You can call it the creator, you can call it source God, just your divine self. And it's the way you find your way of finding that meditation. And so, I found that movement works. I find that the movement of walking, I find that music, the different beats, the different hertz, touching, being in nature or being at the vortices and Sedona, I find all of that brings me grounded and centered, and I'm able to receive divine messages. And that's part of meditation. Good question.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I don't think people realize, I think everybody pictures something else. And like you said, there are so many different ways to connect with the divine. So many ways.
Art's fantastic. I will get lost in time. Any kind of art, but I'm talking about now I'm talking about visual looking art, but like the dance, the same thing. You can get lost in the dance and become the music. You are the music. You're the movement. So you guys, what works for you, find out what that is that allows you to feel connected back to the universe somehow, the divine, your universal source. What allows you to do that, and practice that. That becomes your form of meditation, if you will.
That's so important. And it's such a gift to give yourself. It will help you open up more.
Yes.
It is such a gift. Karen, our time is almost up.
You kidding me?
I know. I wish I could talk to you for hours.
I know we
You're
have a
amazing.
good time when we get together.
I know. I hope to meet you in person at some point. I
It's
really,
gonna
truly
happen.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to meet some of y'all. Y'all are pretty amazing people that I get to talk to. That's why I love to do
That's
this.
awesome. Well, you should come to some of the events. I'll be at Michigan Paracon again this year. That's at the end of August. So
That one I can do.
That's a good
That
one.
one
And
I
a lot of people that are on your show will be there. It's just a great place, you guys. It's one of the biggest ones in the world. If you're into the paranormal, and there's great speakers from all over the world there. I get to return again this year, and it's a phenomenal event. I can't wait to see everybody there too.
It would be a lot of fun. It
Yeah.
will be a lot of fun. Karen, thank you. And I hope that we will talk again soon.
Listen, thank you so much, Didi, for having me. This is always a pleasure to be with you. And thank you to all of you who have tuned in out there. Thank you.
And everyone, please stay tuned for Newbridge. It's coming up. So everybody have a good night. Thank you, Karen, once again, with all my heart.
You bet. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.